gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the next act. He's a very good friend of mine and a supremely brilliant philosopher.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to kind of bring it back to basics a little bit. No, nothing fancy, nothing like time travel. So I just want to talk about why time is a problem for philosophy, which means both why it's problematic for philosophy and difficult to talk about, and why it's a problem that presents itself to philosophy, and why it's important for us to talk about it. Before we talk about time travel, before we talk about the time of day or the time of our lives or anything else, we need to ask a more fundamental philosophical question, which is just, what is time? It's really problematic when we try to do this, because the question denies temporality, because it tries to pin it down into a what, into a whatness, into an identity. An identity meaning something that's unchanging, and something that is atemporal. And it tries to pin it down into an isness of time, an existence, and time is the disruption of existence. It's the existence not continuing from one moment to the next. But it is an old problem, and it was even best put 2,500 years ago by Heraclitus in his most famous fragment. Does anybody know what that might be? It's the river one.
Woo!
Yeah.
You never step in the same river twice.
Thank you. You can never step into the same river twice. Because for it to be the same, for us to have identity, for us to have existence, we need to have some kind of a continuity. But a river is exactly what has none of that. The constant flux and the constant change that we also associate with time. And this went a lot smoother when I was doing this in the shower. So for us to have sameness, we need identity. We need something that stays constant. And a river, we need it for it to consist of the same constituent parts and for them to be arranged in the same way throughout time. And a river never has that. It absolutely never has that. It's not just about the river, though. It's also a metaphor for ourselves and for the world. And not just a metaphor. We can also look at this, and people have interpreted his fragment as talking about the you. Not about you never step into the same river twice being about the river, but about the you that never steps into the same river twice. You never step into the same river twice because you're not the same person the second time you step into the river as you were that first time. If only nothing else has changed except that you are no longer a person who has never stepped into that river. So we've got this good critique of that shows us why time is so difficult to think about. But it's still leaving something uncriticized. There's something that is kernel of identity and existence and sameness in this phrase. I'll repeat it one more time. You can never step into the same river twice. Can anybody guess what that is? It's hiding in there quite subtly, so don't worry.
Is it something about never? I'm just making this up.
There might be more than one. This is just
okay.
the one that I've thought about. Yeah. No, I already talked about you. Not you, but me.
Twice! It's twice!
Okay, that's good. I'm getting to that. Right. Okay, so it's the step. It's the step. You can never step into the same river twice, but he hasn't criticized the step, which stands in here, analogically, for the instant, for the moment. Even though it's brief, that's something that's standing outside of time. The step is one and the same here. But that really brings us to some very serious problems here. And this is why, can you say what that was again? This is why Heraclitus' student, being a smart aleck like yourself, said this to him. You can never step into the same river twice. You can't even step into the same river once. Is not an interrupted flux consisting of indivisible moments or steps, but it's constant. So the step is not identical to itself throughout its time. And this is really important, because if we're going to talk about time, we can't have time being constituted by indivisible moments that are not themselves temporal. And this is a real problem. We need to think time even more critically and even more rigorously than this. So we say you can never step into the same river once. But we also don't have anything to hang our coat on here. There's nothing there. We don't have a theory of time in this anymore. You can never step into the same river once. It doesn't actually even mean anything. I mean, if I just came out here and said, exactly. If I just came out here and said that first off, or if somehow, being a time traveler, I guess, Heraclitus, the student, had gone back in time and said, you can never step into the same river once before Heraclitus has ever done his thing. Well, nobody would know what he was talking about. Nobody would know what he was getting at with that criticism. And this is why we need philosophy of time. This is why we need philosophy of time, even if time resists any philosophizing, even if it seems, and maybe is, to be kind of a lost cause. Because we can't be purely negative, we need to be philosophical. Yeah, okay, so that's a little bit of a downer, but I'll end with why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
Yeah, okay, well, so that he could cross it again. Make it short, because I really got to pee.
I have taken at least 2 showers this week.
Good to know.
Are you sure?
Well, no, not anymore.
Can you step into the same shower twice?
Well, that's absolutely my question. So the problem is, I mean, I know other people have got questions, but this, I was sitting there, this is drove me crazy. Are you saying that if we philosophize this rigorously enough, you can't even say that you've even had a shower?
Well, no, I'm not going to say that, because this is the thing, this is what's in tension here, is our fidelity to time, our fidelity to flux, and our need to talk, our need to have meaning and say meaningful things like I had a shower, which is a meaningful statement. I think that's, yeah.
Okay, Nan.
Well, no, I'm glad that you've covered some of the stuff that I was going to talk about, but it's I'm just curious about the present moment as a thing, because we talk about the present moment, but it's never a moment, it's a continuous moment. You can't ever pin down the present moment. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think it really matters. I'm a phenomenologist, and I'm interested in time as an experience. Whether or not it exists metaphysically or not is beside the point, because it presents itself to us as real and as an object. That doesn't really answer
We've
the
just
question.
broken about 6 rules already. Stop, right, the word phenomenology is back.
Yes, as it should be.
This might be a really silly question, but how do you know you've experienced time if you don't remember anything, or memory is pointless?
Yeah, actually, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I'm going to kind of address that sort of, because what you just presented to me, I think, is like, are we experiencing time, or are we experiencing things as temporal? And that kind of brings me back to this question of, like, we need to address some kind of essence of time.
What would be the difference between experiencing things as time and experiencing things as temporal? Can you just explain that?
Well, I think it comes back to this problem of you can never step into the same river once. Of like, can we pin down time as an experience, or do we experience something time-like as changing kind of thing. But that would be more about objects as changing, things as changing than time itself.
Okay, so the problem is whether it's a flux or whether it's a bunch of things which change. Isn't it?
Maybe.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to use very short words.
Okay.
Is time like giving your dog a name? Whether the dog comes when you call it or not, but you've given it a name because you do have a dog and you like the dog.
I know what you mean.
And with time, is it really a thing, or is it just like a word to explain something else? Like when I see a picture of myself when I'm 20, and I see a picture of myself today, they don't look the same, so I'm going to explain it by calling it time.
No, I think this is what I say, that it's something that the metaphysical problem of does time exist or not is not the question. It's not. It can't be just a name that we give to something that may not exist, because we experience it, and it exists at least insofar as it is an experience, and that's real.
As is the dog.
As is the dog.
So the experience of time is real, and the dog as well. But time is, or so you're making no claims about whether time itself actually exists, because the experience of time nevertheless exists.
Yeah, that's right.
But do you experience time, or do we just experience stuff within time?
Yeah. No, that's a tricky one. I gotta think on that.
This is
time to buy a drink.
Yes. We'll take one more question, and then it will definitely be time to buy a drink, because things have happened in time. Like, for example, me getting thirstier since my last drink ran out. Yes, sir. Last question of this half.
I just want to say, don't we just cross the River Thames every day on the bridge? And, I mean,
Hopefully we never step in.
we've given it a name. We cross it every day. It's not the same water. It's not the same silt. It's not whatever is going under there. Whatever's come out of the sewers. It's the same place. It's vaguely the same place, and from our point of view, on our shared experience.
Okay, well, Heraclitus also said, into the same rivers different and different waters flow. So here you've got a different take on this problem, which emphasizes what you're talking about, that it is the same river. But I don't think that gets at what's problematic about change. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a really good way of not thinking about that.
Well, that's what we're
I think we've all agreed. Now, I've just noticed that one person already definitely thinks that time does exist, because she's gone to the bar to try and get in there before everyone else. What that means is we need to rush down there, get drinks, and I mean, I was going to say come back here in 15 minutes. This doesn't even make sense in my head anymore. Come back here in what the experience is like. The experience of 15
we can say
minutes.
15 minutes.
Okay. Right.
Otherwise we're going to have problems.
We will reconvene back here in what phenomenologically appears to be the experience of 15 minutes.